November 2019, a stage in Los Angeles, and Elon Musk is holding a metal ball in his hand. He's about to throw it at a window he swears cannot break. He winds up, releases, and the glass shatters on impact. The crowd gasps. He tries again on the other window. It cracks too. Two broken windows, live on stage, broadcast to millions watching around the world, and somehow that moment of spectacular failure didn't kill the Cybertruck before it even started. It launched it. Within days, 200,000 people put down deposits. That number eventually climbed past 1 million. 1 million people watched glass crack on camera and decided they wanted one anyway. This is the story of the most hyped pickup in modern automotive history, and how nearly every promise behind it quietly fell apart. This is the Cybertruck, and this is the most expensive illusion Tesla ever sold. Picture that room again. The truck rolls onto the stage looking like it drove straight out of a science fiction film from 4 decades ago. Flat stainless steel panels, zero curves anywhere, edges sharp enough to slice through the stunned silence hanging over the crowd. Half the audience doesn't know whether to laugh or cheer, so for a brief moment, they do both. Then Musk opens with the price, $39,900 for the base model. The room audibly gasps. That's less than a fully loaded F-150. He isn't just launching a truck. He's declaring war on the entire American pickup market and telling Detroit exactly how he plans to win it. Then the numbers start stacking up, each one bigger and bolder than the last. 500 miles of maximum range, 14,000 pounds of towing capacity, a 3,500-pound payload, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Faster than a Porsche 911, he says. Tougher than an F-150, he says. You could basically run the Baja 1000 in this thing. Within days, those 200,000 reservations flood in at $100 each. That figure eventually clears 1 million. Roughly the population of a mid-sized American city, all agreeing to hand Tesla $100 for a truck that doesn't exist yet. Not one of them has sat inside. Not one of them has driven it. But those deposits are fully refundable. Not a commitment, not a binding contract, just a wish. $100 to feel like you already own the future, with zero risk if the future shows up late or doesn't show up at all. For the buyers who wanted to be first, no matter the cost, Tesla offered something called the Foundation Series, a premium first batch trim, priced well above the regular truck, sold specifically to people who didn't want to wait in the standard line. Pay more, skip the queue, own one of the very first Cybertrucks ever built. Hold on to that detail, it matters later. Then to close the show, Musk grabs that metal ball and hurls it at the driver's side window to prove the glass is bulletproof, to prove this machine really can take a hit. The window cracks. He tries the passenger side. It cracks too. He laughs it off. The crowd laughs with him. Nobody in that room thinks the moment means anything. Looking back now, it might be the most accurate product demonstration in automotive history. Now look underneath the spectacle for a second, because the design itself is hiding something important. That blocky angular shape, the one Tesla marketed as bold futuristic styling, was never really a choice. It was a workaround wearing a very expensive costume. The Cybertruck's body is cold-rolled stainless steel, the same family of alloy used on rockets. Tough material, sure, maybe too tough. Traditional stamping presses, the machines every other car company uses to punch out curved doors and rounded fenders, couldn't bend this material without cracking it. The only way to shape it reliably was to keep every single panel flat. The metal itself was dictating the design long before anyone called it futuristic. Tesla just put a name on the limitation and sold it back to the public as vision. And the steel kept one more surprise in reserve. Within weeks of the first deliveries, owners were posting photos of orange rust blooming on a truck marketed as practically indestructible, sometimes after a single rainy weekend. Tesla's own manual ended up quietly warning customers to wipe off grease, tree sap, bird droppings, even road salt, or risk corrosion taking hold. One owner left an advertising magnet stuck to the hood for a month just to see what would happen. He peeled it off and found a rust ring underneath, shaped exactly like the magnet. A $100,000 truck sold on words like exoskeleton, and owners were swapping tips online about not letting it get wet. Somewhere, a 30-year-old Toyota Hilux is still running, completely unbothered, with 0 forum threads dedicated to keeping it dry. Production was supposed to start in 2021. The truck didn't reach a single customer until late 2023. 4 years behind Tesla's own timeline, and the head start went with it, because in 2019, the Cybertruck had the entire electric truck category to itself. Rivian's R1T was years away. Ford's Lightning was still a concept on a different stage. By the time the Cybertruck actually shipped, Ford had launched the Lightning, Rivian was already in driveways, and GM had announced its Silverado EV. Every one of them, whatever their other flaws, delivered roughly the specs they promised. None of them baited buyers with numbers they couldn't hit, and when the Cybertruck finally showed up, that $39,000 base model was gone, quietly pulled from the order page. The cheapest version you could actually buy was $60,990 for a rear-wheel drive model that wouldn't ship until 2025. Want one now? $80,000 for all-wheel drive. Just under $100,000 for the tri-motor version. The truck built to undercut the F-150 was now parked in luxury SUV territory. The spec sheet took the same hit. That 500-mile range promised on stage? Best case in the real world, 340 miles under close to perfect conditions. The 14,000-pound towing figure quietly became 11,000. The payload dropped by close to a third. Every headline number from that 2019 unveiling had been walked back by the time the truck actually existed in someone's driveway. Then in 2025, Tesla finally delivered the cheap rear-wheel drive version it had promised 6 years earlier. A recall filing later forced the company to disclose exactly how many had sold. Not 17,000, not 7,000, not even 700, 173. A truck unveiled to a roaring crowd, backed by over 1 million reservations, promising to out-tow an F-150 at a price close to a loaded sedan, and one of its own trims sold fewer copies than some American diners serve at lunch on a single Tuesday. Tesla wasn't done admitting it had gotten the price wrong. In February of 2025, the company quietly rolled out a stripped-down version closer to that original 2019 number than anything in between. 6 years, and Tesla basically circled back to the price it promised on day one after charging customers double for most of the years in between. A truck marketed as apocalypse-proof should, at minimum, survive light rain and ordinary stop-and-go traffic. The Cybertruck struggled with both, on a schedule you could practically set a clock to. The accelerator pedal could get physically stuck in the down position, holding the truck at full throttle. Recall. The windshield wiper motor could draw too much current and burn itself out mid-drive. Recall. The rear-view camera sometimes simply didn't turn on in reverse. Recall. The drive inverter, the part that actually sends power to the wheels, could fail without warning and kill the truck dead in traffic. Recall. Even the light bar across the front, another piece held on with adhesive instead of hardware, needed its own separate recall after units started coming loose. And the exterior panels, the actual headline feature, the supposedly armor-grade steel, were in some cases held on with adhesive too. Glue. Over 46,000 trucks recalled because a piece of bulletproof steel could detach at highway speed and become a hazard for whoever was driving behind it. Then a brake rotor issue, where the wheel stud itself could crack under stress and separate the wheel from the hub while driving at speed on a public road. By the end of 2025, the Cybertruck had logged 10 separate recalls in roughly 2 years on the market. One of the most recalled vehicles per unit sold in recent memory. A truck pitched as built to survive literally anything, and the list of perfectly ordinary things it couldn't survive just kept growing. If you're wondering how something with this track record kept selling at all, stay with me, because that's exactly where this goes next, and it gets stranger. In 2024, Tesla sold roughly 39,000 Cybertrucks. Nowhere near the 250,000 a year Musk promised investors, but enough that people said give the factory time to ramp up. It didn't ramp up, it collapsed. Quarter by quarter through 2025, the numbers kept shrinking instead of growing. Around 6,000 in Q1, 4,000 in Q2, 5,000 in Q3. By year's end, Tesla had sold just over 20,000 Cybertrucks total, a 48% drop from the year before. The steepest sales collapse of any electric vehicle sold in America that year, out of a factory originally built to produce up to 250,000 units annually, now running at under 10% of capacity. Then came the part Tesla didn't put in any press release. Reports surfaced that SpaceX had quietly bought well over 1,000 Cybertrucks, somewhere between $80 and $160 million worth, with more units showing up at XAI and Musk's other companies. Elon Musk, in effect, buying his own product from himself, using money from his other companies, specifically to keep the sales chart from looking like a crime scene in front of investors. Even with that quiet boost baked in, full-year sales still landed at roughly 20,000. Not the 250,000 he promised the world. 20,000. And a meaningful slice of it was Musk buying from Musk. In 1 quarter alone, SpaceX purchases made up close to 1/5 of every single Cybertruck registered in the entire country. 1 in 5 customers was, on paper, Elon Musk's own rocket company. And it wasn't just the broader EV market dragging the Cybertruck down either. That same year, Tesla's Model 3 actually grew, climbing past 190,000 units sold, up slightly from the year before. Whatever was happening to the Cybertruck, it wasn't happening to the rest of Tesla's lineup. This was specific. This was personal to the truck. And here's a number that puts the whole thing in perspective. Over 1 million people put down a deposit on this truck. By 2025, only around 60,000 of them had actually become real owners. That means roughly 940,000 people looked at what Tesla actually delivered and quietly walked away. For over a year after launch, Tesla made that walking away decision even harder than it needed to be. Early buyers who wanted out were told they couldn't resell their trucks without risking a lawsuit or getting blacklisted from buying a Tesla again. When that restriction finally got lifted in 2025, it became pretty clear why it existed in the first place. Tesla didn't want the resale numbers becoming public while the company was still trying to sell new ones at full price. Once the floodgates opened, the picture got ugly fast. The used market filled up with low-mileage Cybertrucks from owners who'd waited years for delivery, driven them for a few months, and decided they'd had enough. One early Foundation Series truck sold at auction in 2024 for $146,500. 18 months later, with barely any miles added, that same truck sold again for $70,000. Some early owners reported losing 35 to 38% of their truck's value in year one alone, against an industry average closer to 24% over a full 3 years. Some analysts projected a 60% loss over 5 years, against roughly 39% for the average American pickup. It got bad enough that some Tesla dealerships reportedly stopped accepting Cybertrucks as trade-ins altogether, worried they'd never be able to move them off the lot. Sit with that for a second. Tesla's own dealerships didn't want Tesla's own truck. But the numbers aren't even the strangest part of this story. The strangest part is what the truck came to mean. In 2019, buying a Cybertruck said something specific about you. Bold, a little reckless, first in line for the future. That identity was a huge part of what Tesla was actually selling, arguably bigger than the truck itself. By 2025, that identity had shifted underneath the people who'd bought into it. The truck had become the single most visible symbol of Elon Musk's personal brand, at precisely the moment that brand turned deeply polarizing for a wide slice of the country. Owners reported their trucks getting vandalized in parking lots. Some stripped the badging off entirely or wrapped the whole truck in a different color just to make it less recognizable on the road. The most attention-grabbing vehicle on American roads had become the one truck its owners most wanted to disappear. A Model 3 owner could blend back into traffic without a second thought. A Cybertruck owner couldn't. There's no version of that truck that hides in a parking lot. It was built to be looked at, and for a stretch there, being looked at was the last thing some owners wanted. Picture a grocery store parking lot. A Cybertruck pulls in, and within seconds, 2 kids are standing next to it, phones out, taking pictures like it just landed from another planet. Their dad is trying to pull them away before they scratch the paint with their own enthusiasm. That's the whole Cybertruck story in one scene. Everyone wants to look at it. Fewer and fewer people actually want to own it. It even got a little absurd. At one point, reports surfaced that the U.S. Air Force had looked into picking up some retired Cybertrucks for target practice. A vehicle once pitched as the toughest thing on 4 wheels, being eyed as something to shoot at. Zoom out far enough, and this stops looking like one product's bad luck. It starts looking like a method. Promise something audacious, generate maximum excitement, sort out the gap between promise and reality later, once the deposits are already in. That method landed rockets upright on a barge in the ocean. It built one of the most valuable car companies on Earth out of what Detroit once dismissed as a hobby project. But a rocket either works or it explodes on a test stand, far from any customers. A truck has to start every morning in the rain in someone's actual driveway for the next decade. That's a different kind of promise to break. So go back to that stage, the metal ball, the window that was supposed to be unbreakable. It didn't crack because the glass was weak. It cracked because it was the first thing in this entire story that got tested in public, in real time, with no room to spin the result. Everything that came after was just that same test run again and again in slow motion for 6 years. The pedal that jammed, the panels held on with glue, the wheels that came loose at speed, the steel that rusted in the rain, the price that climbed instead of dropping, then quietly crept back down once the damage was done. The sales figures padded with Musk's own money, the badge's owners peeled off their own hoods. Different part, same crack. There's still something undeniably magnetic about the Cybertruck, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. People stopped dead in parking lots to look at it. Kids treat it like it drove in from another planet, because in a lot of ways it kind of did. That reaction is real, and it matters. Tesla won the attention game more decisively than almost any vehicle launch in the last decade, but attention was never the same thing as delivery. And right now, the recalls, the sales charts, and the resale numbers all say the same thing. Tesla nailed the spectacle and missed almost everything sitting underneath it. If this one earned your time, hit that like button and drop a comment below. I want to know if you've ever stood next to one of these in person and what you actually thought. New here? Subscribe and turn on notifications, because there's plenty more where this came from. This has been Motors In. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and I'll see you in the next one.